like that.
Yeah, me too.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what are the what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Friday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We are live in the Matt Black Kia Studios. Hanging out with you, a Friday edition of the show. Feels a little weird. No Sixers, no Flyers. I had a Phillies game tonight. I mean, what kind of bizarro scheduling is that? If you're a Phillies sports fan, you don't have any of the three teams that are supposed to be playing tonight. Somebody messed up. Somebody dropped the ball there. But we still got plenty to talk about here on Game Night. We got Tom Moore, sports columnist, Courier Times, joining us coming up at 6:20 to get into the Phillies, to get into the Sixers. There's a lot to touch on going on right now because the Sixers, hey, they went 4-2 on that road trip. I know some people's inclination is to complain about everything, but guess what? 4-2 on that road trip, not bad. Not bad at all. Phillies get an opening win on opening day. Not a bad way to start the season as well. It's not a guarantee they're going to win out all year, but at least it gives you some positive vibes and gives you an idea what the team can do moving forward. And as always, the text board is open at 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation, 609-403-0973. One of the things that also I want to get into today is about also the Eagles and where they stand. Adam Kaplan had some very interesting things to say earlier today on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill at Football at 4. When you look at the Eagles and their options in the draft, I thought that Adam Kaplan made up a very good point about who is and who isn't available. Before I get to what Adam said, I want to remind you all about something specifically. Being at 12th overall does not prohibit you from getting talent. It is not a negating. It doesn't prevent you. It doesn't mean that you can't have talent out there. Think about the different options who have been around where the Eagles are drafting right now in the draft. The Eagles are currently 12th overall. In past drafts, here are some players who were drafted outside of the top 10. Marshawn Lattimore, 11th overall. Laramie Tunsil, 13th overall. Marcus Peters, 18th overall. Odell Beckham Jr., 12th overall. Aaron Donald, 13th overall. That's a bunch of pro bowlers and all pros going on right there. I think if you're a honest football fan, no matter what team that you're a fan of, you would love to have any of those guys. But none of them were drafted in the top 10. So don't get it twisted. You can still get legitimate talent in this draft outside the top 10. It may not be specifically Jamar Chase. It may not be Kyle Pitts. It may not even be Jalen Waddle, depending on who you ask. But as I expressed to you guys yesterday, who was the best wide receivers production-wise last year? Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins. Neither one of them were drafted in the top 20. Now, it's only apparently Eagle fans who think that their team drafted the wrong guy, even though that Jerry Jeudy had a very underwhelming year for Broncos. Ruggs had a pretty pathetic year for the Raiders. And CeeDee Lamb, we don't even know what he is still because he played on a team that had about 5 different quarterbacks start last year. And I don't know if having Andy Dalton and Garrett Gilbert throwing to you is actually a good measure of your talent. So you don't hear other teams complaining about their wide receiver picks, but apparently Justin Jefferson goes to the Vikings. The Eagles could have had him. Everyone could have had Justin Jefferson. It's like the DK Metcalf argument. Every team passed on DK Metcalf twice, including the Seahawks. again, even more of an explanation for why you have to understand of who is available and who's not. Let the draft play out. Don't buy or sell on the Eagles trade just because you're not getting Jamar Chase. I'm not hoping for this, but what if Jamar Chase has a career-ending injury as a rookie? Are you still going to be salivating how the Eagles should have drafted Jamar Chase? Of course you're not. History will play out. We will find out with time if they can get who they can get. But if you walk away with someone on the level of a Marshawn Lattimore or a Marcus Peters, I think you'll be happy. I can't promise you Aaron Donald or Odell Beckham Jr., but I can promise you will have an opportunity to get high caliber talent. NFL insider Adam Kaplan earlier today on the Sports Bash about the prospects.
Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle almost certainly will go. Well, we know what Chase will. I strongly believe Waddle will go off the board before the Eagles pick at 12. Devontae Smith, he could be there. Kyle Pitts will not make it to the Eagles at 12. Penei Sewell will not make it to the Eagles at 12. J.C. Horn, guys I trust around the league, think is the best corner for this draft. It's going to be very close. Joe Horn's son, by the way, where they makes it to number 12. Patrick Surtain II, I think he's going to go in the back of the top 10. He could be there at 12.
So those are some options for what you can expect. First of all, the idea the Eagles were even going to draft Penei Sewell, I think, is outlandish anyway. They don't need another starting tackle. They got technically 3 right now, and they got to figure out who's going to be the starting left tackle long term. Personally, I would give the edge to Mailata over Dillard, but let's let them get the camp and compete. Nick Sirianni keeps talking how he loves competition. Well, let the guys compete. Let's see what happens. You heard the 2 corners be mentioned there. Those 2 corners, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain II. I've been pounding a table for those corners. And if either one of them are as good as Marshawn Lattimore and Marcus Peters, both players who were drafted outside of the top 10 in the first round, if Horn and Surtain end up like either of those guys and the Eagles wind up with him, I don't think anybody will complain. Or at least they shouldn't. Okay? I understand that some people are still going to be mad they didn't get a specific player. And that's fine. But all I do is ask the situation, let the situation play out. Let the situation play out and then see what happens. Don't make any irrational judgments from the beginning just because you wanted a certain guy. Time will tell if these are good and bad moves. 609-403-0973 is the text. Also, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show. Just follow at 973 ESPN. Tom Moore from the Courier-Times will join us coming up in about 11 minutes from now to get more into the Phillies and the Sixers. When you think about also when it comes to what we saw this week, we saw the Philadelphia 76ers go 7-2 on their road trip. 4-2. I'm sorry. Why don't we applaud that? I think that's an accomplishment. 4-2 on a road trip. That's an accomplishment. Come on, man. But yet, what did I see all last night and today? Ben Simmons is a bum. Ben Simmons can't score. Totally ignoring the fact that Shake Milton went out there and had a ridiculous game. So did Dwight Howard, by the way. That was a great pickup if you were in fantasy sports. Dwight Howard last night, 18 points, 15 rebounds, a couple blocks. Pretty good on the fantasy stat sheet right there. But on the court as well, he's a big part of you winning. And I told you guys last night, no Jared Allen meant that this Sixers team was going to win that game. And in the same night, you have the Sixers and the Phillies both win. I don't know about you, but there's some nice positive vibes going on for me. Some real positive vibes for me when it comes to them winning. I love seeing the Phillies fight back in the extra innings. The Jose Alvarado experience is real, man. That dude, bases loaded, strikes out the side. That was wild. But really quick on the Sixers. I find that people just love to complain sometimes. And I would encourage you all to just try not to be like everybody else. Just because everybody is running off the cliff doesn't mean you have to as well. Just because everyone hates Ben Simmons doesn't mean you have to as well. I mean that seriously. I'm frustrated with Ben Simmons. I don't like the fact that he went, 2 for 11 last night? That's disgusting. That's embarrassing. You're an NBA basketball player. I don't know if he's got a mental block. Ben says he needs to get his bleep together. All right. Get your stuff together. Figure it out. But I'm not going to overly judge somebody based on one outing. I will judge him on the fact that they went 4-2 on that road trip. It takes a team to win a championship. And I'm not promising you the Sixers will win a championship, but I think they're a heck of a lot closer right now than they were last year or the year before that. Part of it's the coach. Part of it's the front office and the GM. I mean, certainly almost anybody's better than Brian Colangelo, right? Part of it's the roster, but part of it's also maturity. Joel Embiid is an MVP candidate this year because he's matured. He's grown up a little bit. He's got a child now. He's in a long-term committed relationship. He's taking care of his body. He's taking care of his health. He's listening to the people around him. Maturity. Tobias Harris has grown into his role. I've given you the stat before. The Sixers are now 18-2 when Tobias gets at least 20 points and 6 rebounds. Maturity. He's grown into that role. Doc Rivers is a mature, experienced coach who is a former player himself. If anybody understands how to maximize players, it's him. There's a lot of variables that go into the Sixers' success, but I think that we should be celebrating the 4-2 road trip instead of trashing it. And then with the Phillies, I like what Bob Wankel said earlier on the Sports Bash. I love that he said this because I think a lot of times we have opinions about pitching that don't always, it's kind of like, I get the sense the person who hates Howie Roseman also hates any pitcher whose name is not Roy Halladay, Kurt Schilling, Steve Carlton. If he's not one of those three guys, then they're a bum. That's why I like what Bob Wankel when he said this.
I have no issue with Aaron Nola going 6 2/3 innings, giving up 2 earned runs on opening day when it was 37 degrees out and sports writers in the press box couldn't even type on their keyboards because their hands were so cold. You know, like I can't kill Aaron Nola for one mistake in that point in the game. But for me, Aaron Nola is a great pitcher, but you're not really going to be able to change the narrative about Aaron Nola until you get to September.
Listen, Aaron Nola is a good pitcher. Should he be the ace? I don't know. I don't really think he's an ace. I think he's the ace because you need him to be your opening day pitcher, not because he is ultimately the best pitcher for the job, but he's the best pitcher on your roster currently at that second, at that moment. Giving up 2 runs on opening day is a pretty nice deal. I mean, I can remember back to years when people who nobody wants to remember anymore were opening day pitchers. If I remember correctly, wasn't Robert Person an opening day starter? I mean, come on. The Phillies have had some really abominable pitchers in the past. I think that Aaron Nola giving up 2 runs on opening day, I think it's just he's a good pitcher. You need him to be great. I understand that, but he's still a very good pitcher. And I think that, again, like I said about the Sixers, and like I said about the Eagles, there's a theme here. It's all connected, as Kevin Feige would say. You can be happy about these teams and these players and these situations. Not everything has to be a negative. Glass is half full, folks. It could be a lot worse. You could be the Cavs, and you got excited that Kevin Love is back in the lineup. You could be Memphis and never have a chance to win a championship because, well, you're Memphis. Hey, you could be the Atlanta Falcons and lose 2 Super Bowls in pretty embarrassing manners. 2 very different embarrassing manners, but you lost them both in embarrassing manners. Could always be worse. Try to find the positives, folks. The Eagles have the 12th overall pick. The Sixers went 4-2 on a road trip without Joel Embiid, and the Phillies walked off with a win on opening day. Get excited. Or as Tom Brady would say, let's go. I just kept out the expletive there. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Game Night being brought to my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm so excited that baseball is back, and there's nothing like watching a game with great weather, a cold drink, and a little action on FanDuel Sportsbook. If you've never bet on baseball before, now is a perfect time to give it a shot because FanDuel is letting new users swing for the fences risk-free. You'll get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. And once you sign up with your account using my promo code Hennig, you can get up to $25 back each day if your same-game parlay bet falls one leg short. These are just some of the reasons why FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook. So download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up with my promo code Hennig to get in on the baseball action and get your first bet risk-free. That's promo code Hennig on FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or to play and present in NJ or PA. First online real money wager only for first risk-free bet. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll get more into the Sixers and the Phillies coming up next with sports columnist Tom Moore from the Bucks County Courier-Times right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
Hey, South Jersey, this is no April Fools. We have a great weekend lined up in the locker room with Billy Schwein. Saturday, we'll review the Sixers' 6-game road. Check. Glass, Glass, Glass. Enter it now on our website, 973ESPN.com, or use the free mobile app. Sports Bash Cash is brought to you by Jersey Shore Federal Credit Union. For all your lending needs, get the next Sports Bash Cash code word at 1055. Cow, C-O-W, Cow. Get the next Sports Bash Cash code word at 1155. Shelf, S-H-E-L-F, Shelf. Get the next Sports Bash Cash code word at 1255. Bottle, B-O-T-T-L-E, Bottle. Get the next Sports Bash Cash code word.
In a new Kia at Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River or Egg Harbor Township today. The new year is an opportunity to set goals and start fresh. And at Matt Blatt Kia, our goal is to get you out of that old car you hate. Come in today or visit us online and get the credit you deserve this new year.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike. Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-342-4301. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-342-4301 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-342-4301 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-342-4301.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. If it's free, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show here on 97.3 ESPN. Joining us right now on the Boardwalk Hunter Hotline, covers all the Phillies sports teams, the Bucks County Courier-Times, sports columnist, and has covered the Sixers for a very long time. Tom Moore joins us right now here on 97.3 ESPN to get more into those Phillies and those Sixers. Tom, how you doing today?
All right, Josh, how are you? I'm finally warmed up after yesterday. The Phillies, it was so cold. I had a winter jacket, a winter hat on, and I joked that I went to get ice cream to warm up. That's how cold it was. The wind, it was unbelievable. And of course, it had to be a 3-hour and 33-minute game. But it's what happened was with April baseball.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have it any other way considering what has happened in the last 12 months, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there was 8,500 fans there. Sounded like a lot more, and it felt more like a regular opening day. I mean, obviously, it wasn't quite the same as 2 years ago, but it was an enjoyable day. All things, willing to pay a little bit of a price. Let's put it that way.
So let's get into those Phillies a little bit. Obviously, a lot of people have been anticipating them being back, Tom, and I'm curious your perspective about how you feel like this season can play out. I think a lot of people feel like, well, they're not the Braves, they're not the Mets, maybe they're kind of around the Nationals. How do you feel the Phillies stack up compared to the rest of the division?
Yeah, I think I picked them third, and I said 85 and 77. Two things I was very encouraged by yesterday. One was the defense. There were three huge plays, highlight, Gregorius's catch, Bohm's catch of the liner, and of course, Roman Quinn's throw for the final out in the 10th, and the tag by Real Muto, and the bullpen. 3 1/3 shutout innings. I thought that was, they had the second worst ERA in Major League Baseball history last year, 7.06. And, to see Archie Bradley get the last out of the 7th after the, 2-run homer by Pablo Sandoval just took the air out of the park. And then with, I think it's going to be a thrill ride watching Alvarado this year with his stuff and, with his wild and loading the bases and all that. And then Neris in the 9th and Brogdon in the 10th, I thought was fantastic. Imagine being a second-year guy who has 9 appearances. You come in on opening day in the 10th inning with a runner on second base and Freddie Freeman, the 2020 National League MVP, at bat, and got him to ground out, and then got the fly-out double play, by Ozuna, and then the Phillies won at the bottom. But I think if the defense, which was a liability last year, and the bullpen, which was just horrendous, if they can be good, they don't have to be great, good with that offense. I believe they were 6th in Major League Baseball last year in runs scored, and they should be somewhere around the same place this year. If those two things can be just good, I think they have a decent shot at maybe that second wild card.
You mentioned about Brogdon there in the 10th inning. Is that maybe a little extra of a confidence boost for a young man like that, for the manager to say, listen, 10th inning, opening day, I trust you. How far can that go for a guy like that?
Yeah, definitely, Josh. I mean, you have Kinsler and you have some guys with a lot more experience. But he's a kid that they brought him up last year in August, and he just got hammered. I think his ERA was it was over 10 in his first 3 outings, I guess it was in August. Went down to the alternate site in Lehigh Valley, worked some things out, came back, and wasn't scored on in September. And Girardi used him in some high leverage situations and did well. And I think he threw 10 innings, gave up 1 hit, and struck out 14. I didn't realize he was that dominant. And then in spring training, he threw 6 shutout innings, gave up 1 run. So he's figured some things out apparently, and throws strikes and mixes his pitches very well. And Girardi, you need arms. And I thought he might be like a 7th inning guy. He was up, interestingly, in the 8th with Alvarado. And I was wondering, as his 2 on, 1 out, what's he going to do? You have to pitch to 3 batters unless you finish the inning. And Girardi stuck with him, and Alvarado got out of it. But then he got him up again, and he pitched in the 10th and pitched really well. So I think he's good. You're going to see him in the 7th, 8th, 9th innings, of ball games, especially if he keeps pitching like this.
Tom Moore joining us here on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Tom Moore Philly on Twitter. Check out all of his work over at the Bucks County Courier-Times. Tom, when you think about this Phillies team as well, I think a lot of people are also not just the pitching staff, but they want to know about the batting lineup. I think a lot of people, they know Bryce Harper, they know JT Realmuto, they know what they bring to the table, but I think there's still some questions about the other guys. I mean, it was nice to see Gene Segura have that big hit yesterday, but what is realistic for him for the full season? What is realistic for Rhys Hoskins for a full season? I still feel like there's some holes in this batting lineup.
Well, Hoskins is not hit. His average is not, has not been 250 consistently, has been below 250 after that first couple months where he was real hot when he came up. But the one thing he does really well is draws walks. Even though his average was 20 points lower than Realmuto last year, his on-base percentage was higher. And that's why you see him in that second spot. He's very selective. He doesn't swing at balls, and he gets on base. Ironically, I posted something Monday morning with a projected starting lineup, and I got it all right, which is the blind squirrel theory that, every once in a while a blind squirrel finds an acorn, because the questions were who's batting second and who's fourth. And that was Hoskins at second, Realmuto fourth. And then would he go righty lefty and move Gregorius to 5th, or would it be Bohm? And I just figured Bohm's such a good hitter, you got to put him there. And then, of course, who's going to be the center fielder? This is before they sent Herrera down. And I just thought Quinn strikes out so much for a guy who doesn't have a lot of power. And even though Hazley didn't get to play a lot, with the injury, I just thought he would be the guy, and he was. Now, I guess he tweaked his hamstring, and it's unclear, he may be out for a while. So you may be seeing a lot of Roman Quinn, out there. But yeah, I think Bohm's not exactly proven, but what he did last year, hitting, over 320, and he hit better in September than he did earlier, which means, guys weren't figuring him out, or he was adjusting. I think he's pretty solid. Gregorius at 6, ironically, struck out the first 3 times yesterday, and then got a base hit, and then was intentionally walked. I would have intentionally walked not only Gregorius, I would have intentionally walked Segura too, loaded the bases in that 10th inning, and taken my chances with Roman Quinn. With as much as he strikes out and everything, it was kind of weird because they pitched to Bohm, who's the best hitter clearly of the group, then walked Gregorius, and then pitched to Segura. It was like kind of halfway did it. I was surprised Snitker did it that way. But I think that, I don't think it's an unbelievable lineup top to bottom, but I still think, they're going to score a lot of runs. There's a lot of guys that can hurt you in that lineup, and it is a mixture of righties and lefties, which makes it tough, when you go to the bullpen. There's not 3 lefties in a row or 3 righties in a row. So I think the offense is going to be fine. I think that's not going to be the question mark. I still think it's a defense, and Girardi had him do a lot of extra stuff in the spring and really worked on kind of breaking some bad habits. And the bullpen are really going to determine if this is a 90-win season or an 83-win season.
Tom, you mentioned the Adam Hazley. He goes down with another injury. Hopefully he's not out for too long, but if he is out for a while, What do you think the Phillies should do? We know that Odubel is not on the 40-man roster, so in order for to bring him up, that would have some corresponding moves. I know people want to see Mickey Moniak potentially. What would you do if you're the Phillies if Adam Hazley has to miss a significant amount of time?
Yeah, that's a tough question because, and Kingery hasn't had enough time, I think, to get it right. He's still struggling. So if this was a couple weeks down the road and you saw, that he was getting his act together, maybe. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be playing games for a while, so it's only simulated games and stuff there. I mean, I guess I would consider bringing up Moniak. I would probably consider bringing him up because if it is, like you said, going to be a couple weeks and you need to put him on the, on the injured list, you just have Brad Miller's the only extra guy at this point. So I would consider Moniak. I think they liked what he did, but I think they want him to play every day. So. We'll have to see. Like you said, it'd be nice for them if he's only out a few days or he's going to be back, but it's a tough call.
Tom Moore joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Tom Moore, Philly on Twitter, sports columnist covering all the Philly sports teams. But Tom, for a long time, you also covered the 76ers. You're still intimately covering them now. And my big takeaway today is, listen, they went 4-2 on a road trip without Joel Embiid. To me, the glass is half full here for the 76ers. I know people are complaining about, Ben Simmons, he didn't score much last night. But to me, I look at it as you went 4-2 without Embiid. And I think they only won, 12 road games all of last year.
Yeah, no, I would have taken the under on 4-2, even though there was a couple, so they didn't play great teams every night. Obviously, the Clippers and the Lakers are very good. All the Lakers were quite shorthanded. But yeah, and they struggled to win early this season and last season without Embiid. So, Shake Milton's kind of got his mojo back. I think that's encouraging, off the bench. Simmons maybe has regressed a little bit offensively and is being used off the ball more, it seems like, than on the ball. I think we're also realizing that, Simmons and Howard doesn't work real well together. They just don't complement each other in terms of spreading the floor and, off being threats, making the defense stay honest. But yeah, I think that's very encouraging. Now, what kind of shape is Embiid in? When we saw him a few days after he was injured at the last home game, it looked like he had put on a few pounds. So will he be on a minutes restriction when he comes back, assuming it's this weekend? How long will it take him to kind of get back, to where he needs to be? Will he play? If he's going to play this weekend, I would assume he wouldn't play in both games, the back-to-back, Saturday night against Minnesota and then Sunday at home against Memphis. So, but to me, as good as he is offensively, I think defensively is where he has the biggest impact because he just erases so many mistakes by being in the lane, making guys think twice or pulling up or whatever instead of going all the way to the rim.
And to me, Tom, when you talk about what he does, he cannot score because if you have like a Tobias Harris going out there, a Shake Milton going out there, Seth Curry going off, or when Embiid comes back, him going for 30 points, you don't need Ben Simmons to do as much offensively. You want him to be assertive. You want him to be part of the offense, but you don't need him to be the primary guy. And I think that's what gets mixed up because people take that you were the number one pick and project it onto a guy when maybe he might not be the guy that you expected or wanted or hoped he would be. Doesn't make him any less of a great basketball player.
I hear what you're saying, but I still think it's more of a mentality. He doesn't need to do it a lot, but he at his size and the way he moves, he's taken fadeaway shots over much smaller guys. There's no reason to fade away. If it's a big guy, yes. But if you're 6'10", you got a 6'4" guy on you, go over him. Don't fade away. It's just more of an aggressive kind of assertive mindset. Doesn't have to do it all the time, but he should be able to get to the rim almost whenever he wants because it just seems like he's so fast with the ball. He uses both hands, and he has an array of shots in the basket area. Like I said, he doesn't have to do it. He doesn't need to take 20 shots, but I want to see him. I want to see him attacking and not driving and looking to pass all the time. That's how I would put it.
This team overall, Tom, what do you think the overall impact has been thus far of Doc Rivers? To me, I think the biggest thing has been this is a guy who has a history of maximizing the players he has. He gets more out of guys than most coaches get. And part of it is him being a former player. Part of it's because of the great coaching staffs that he has. What is your perspective on what Doc Rivers has done with this team this year?
I think the biggest thing, Josh, is he has cachet. He won a championship. He's won everywhere he's been. I don't mean that he's won championships, but, he was successful in Orlando. He was incredibly successful, won a championship in Boston, and he was very successful with the Clippers, although, again, didn't make it, didn't win the championship, didn't get to the finals. But, and I think his history, too, like you look at Tobias Harris, he knows that Tobias Harris prefers to drive to his left. It sounds like that wasn't apparent last year to the Sixers because I talked to him for a story, and he said that he called Josh Harris. He called Tobias Harris up on the phone and said, "Why are you? Which hand do you prefer?" And Tobias said, "Both." And Doc said baloney, except he didn't say baloney, if you know what I mean.
And Tom Moore just froze on us in the middle of telling that story. We'll try to get Tom back up there to reset that because he literally froze in the middle of telling us that story. That was just too good. I'll have to text him, let him know that his video froze there because he was able to tell a great story there, and we just lost him there. So hopefully we can get him back to finish telling us about Doc Rivers. About what happened there. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, of course, live on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We'll try to get Tom back up there in just a moment here. Tom says he's going to have he's rebooting his, okay, I got it. All right, Tom, he's got to hold me. He's fixing a situation. So we're actually going to try to get Tom back on here in just a moment here on 97.3 ES because he was in the middle of telling a great story there, which was about Doc Rivers and his relationship with Tobias Harris. So we're going to hit the break real quick. We'll see if we can get Tom back on there to finish telling us about that. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. And of course, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Technology. Welcome to the 21st century. Things don't always work out as planned here on 97.3 ESPN.
Westwood One is your exclusive home for the 2021 NCAA tournament. It's only fitting that a season unlike any other comes to a conclusion in the most unique circumstances. From 68 teams down to one, all in the same state. Every basket, buzzer beater, and bracket buster until a champion is crowned. Who will take home the title? Tune in to find out. All the excitement of March Madness right here.
It's the Final Four tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 4:30.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan is receiving a special allocation of new Nissans, and we need your trade. So get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new 2021 Nissan Murano. $5,000 off MSRP, plus 0 down and 0% APR financing for 60 months on new in-stock Nissan Sentras and Altimas. Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot wants to approve your credit today so you can drive a new Nissan with 0 down payment and 0% APR financing, plus our fast track checkout online at mattblattnissan.com. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township or at mattblattnissan.com. On approved credit, negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. All factory rebates and incentives to dealer. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on $13.33 per 1,000 borrowed. Murano 8 to choose. Offers can't be combined. Call 888-731-5030 for all the details. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
This week's featured bet is brought to you by the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Atlantic City. Tournament semifinals matchup between Houston and Baylor, two of the best defensive teams in college basketball. Take the under 134.5 point total. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
If you're in HR, you're probably wearing a lot of hats. Recruiter, team builder, trainer, mediator, policymaker, and of course, paper pusher. But not anymore. Bamboo HR is the #1 HR software for small and medium businesses. It manages all your employee data easily and automates countless tasks, so you can focus on people, not paperwork. Bamboo HR frees you from spreadsheets, so you can do your real job, creating a great place to work. If the data shuffle and paperwork mountain have you ready to hang up all your hats, you're ready for Bamboo. If you handle HR records and paperwork, Bamboo HR is a dream. Let us free up your time and put your days of pushing paperwork behind you, so you can focus on the people and making your company a great place to work for everyone. Try PC Magazine's top pick for HR software free today. Just go to bamboohr.com/panda. This is a limited offer only available to radio listeners at bamboohr.com/panda. That's bamboohr.com/panda.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. Good news is we got Tom Moore back on the line here. It is the 21st century, so as wonderful as technology is, we know technology is not always cooperative. So, Tom, we got you back here on the video stream, and you were in the middle of telling the story about when Doc talked to Ben.
Oh, yeah.
And he basically called baloney on him, or is saying another word,
Yes.
about him saying, I like to use both hands there.
Right.
So,
He said, I know, and he said, I know, Harris said, you think I like to go left. I prefer going left. And Rivers said, I know you prefer to go left. So, but he said, well, then why did you keep going right in plays last year? And Harris said, well, I didn't. The coach called it, so I just did it. So, Doc has taken advantage of that, and he knows he prefers going left. So you see him, he starts on the right-hand side a lot. So when he drives to the middle, he uses a left hand. I did not realize last year, based on what I saw, that he was left-hand dominant. But if you think about it, he typically does go left. But I'm saying Doc has such a history, and he knows if he doesn't know the players, he knows the coaches. He's aware of these things, and it's a little thing, but it's not a little thing. And I think that's part of it. And he wants Harris attacking. He doesn't want him. He calls it dancing, like Harden's a dancer. He's not a dancer. He's got to attack. He gets the ball and goes. That's when he's at his best. And he realizes these things, and he's able to kind of, I think, play to a guy's strengths, having, been a coach for 21 years. And I think that's a big thing. I mean, I really like Brett Brown, but he was figuring it out as he went. He had never been a head coach before. That's a lot to ask. He had some strong personalities. And the other thing is Doc Rivers has coached superstars everywhere he's gone. So he's used to egos. He's used to guys wanting things. He's used to demanding guys, and he knows how to make it work.
Yeah, and also the thing with Brett Brown, and this wasn't particularly his fault, but he was asking a lot of bullets for the organization. He may not have been, this elite coach like Doc Rivers is considered to be, but he was taking a lot of bullets for organization and trying to make the best of a situation that he was handed. Whereas Doc Rivers, you could argue, walked into a very good situation because of what was left behind from the Brett Brown years.
Yeah, right. Well, certainly the tanking resulted in Embiid and Simmons, which is our two core pieces. A 3-year All-Star starter in Embiid and a 3-year All-Star in Simmons. So yes, it's like they used to say with Larry Brown and Phil Jackson. Larry Brown does basements, and Phil Jackson's does roofs. In other words, he goes to places where they have Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Doug Collins got him to the Eastern Conference Finals, but couldn't get him over the hump. And then he goes to the Lakers, and he has Shaq and Kobe, and wins some championships there. And then Kobe by himself. So yeah, there was a little bit of that he certainly didn't have to build from the ground up. And then he had Daryl Morey, making that move to send Horford to OKC, which really got, moved somebody out of here who really didn't fit, got Danny Green, who I think is an underrated wing. And they've addressed some needs there. Yes.
He's Tom Moore. You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Moore Philly on Twitter. Check out all of his work over with the Bucks County Courier-Times. Great stuff there. Great coverage of the Phillies, Sixers, all the Phillies sports teams. And of course, he also has excellent music taste, as I saw that you definitely dive into a little Marvin Gaye there, which is very Josh Hennig approved over here, because I always tell people all the time, I run into a lot of people who are younger than me at the gym, and they don't know music, and I always tell them,
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye is the reason why you have some of the music that you have today. And they're like, who? And I'm like, all right, hold on, man. I got to pull up the playlist and start, playing, Heard It Through the Grapevine and Trouble Man and all those great songs. So
what's going on? What a great one. Yeah.
The guy was an incredible talent, and he was so ahead of his time.
What a voice and what a presence. Incredible. And sorry about that earlier. I don't know what happened. I was on 71% and literally the screen went black. I have no idea. So I quick plugged it in and it booted up. So sorry about that.
Hey, I just chalk everything up to technology is what it is because we're in the 21st century now.
Yeah, I know. With progress, it seems like we take a step backward in some ways.
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
There you go. All right, Josh, have a good one.
Take care. That's Tom Moore joining us on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, our talk about the Sixers and the Phillies today being brought to you by Trifecta Therapeutics in Glassboro, South Jersey's premier sports rehabilitation and physical therapy center, treating the pros and the Joes. Visit them online at trifectatherapeutics.com. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. As usual, we will get to your thoughts and comments, 609-403-0973. And you guys watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, just as Steven Garrison chimed in a little bit earlier and says, I think the Phillies are going to be a 90-win team, pushing it with 90, maybe 86, 87. Listen, Steven, I think it's definitely reasonable for the Phillies to be that kind of team. I don't think it's beyond the possibility for them to get there. My question is 2 things. Number one, does the starting pitching hold up? This idea the Phillies are going into this season with who they got, I have some questions. There are certain players that we definitely have questions about. All right. One of them being, what is Matt Moore bringing to the table? I know it's not the guy that we talk about the most because we always talk about Nola and Wheeler and Eflin. But to me, Matt Moore is a game changer because before Matt Moore had his injuries, he was considered a very, very good baseball pitcher. I don't know if he was ever going to be like a perennial all-star kind of pitcher, but he was a guy that went out there and was a bona fide left-handed starter. When he went 17-40 years ago with that 3.2 whatever it was ERA, you were like, all right, I see you, Matt Moore. And then the injuries started piling up. And then the Rays, they were like, listen, we gotta unload him. He just can't stay healthy. He had those 2 years with the Giants where you kind of thought, all right, well, maybe he's finding himself again. And then he just kind of imploded. And then he had another injury. Then he went to Japan and now he's back. And so you kind of have to wonder with Matt Moore, what are you getting from him? Are you getting the Matt Moore that went 17-4 with a 3.2 or 2.3 ERA? Or are you getting the Matt Moore that went 16-5 with an over 5 ERA, right? So which are you getting? Are you getting a winning pitcher? Or are you getting a losing pitcher? To me, that's the big key for the Phillies. If Matt Moore can go out there and be a productive guy, then I think that's where it all starts. To me, I think that we know what Nola, Wheeler, and Eflin can bring to the table. We don't 100% know what the other guys are bringing to the table. I think that if Matt Moore can go out there and go, even if he goes 11-11 with a 4 ERA this year, I think that is still a potential good thing because you have a pitcher who he has a certain history. Okay. He has a background that would tell you that he can be a very good pitcher, but he's also had very down years. And if he's as healthy as they say he is, he will make a difference because Chase Anderson is mostly there just to eat up innings and fill out a roster spot in the rotation. He's not going to be a game changer. Chase Anderson is a guy who is the reason why Vince Velasquez isn't in the starting rotation, but he's not going to be some electric guy. He's had some nice seasons, but there's a reason why he was available. And he was available because things have not really gone as planned for him in recent years. And I think that for Chase Anderson, a guy who's not a dominant strikeout pitcher, he's not a guy who's going to go out there and blow people away left and right. He's a guy who's serviceable. I don't think he's the guy that had an under 3 ERA back in 2017, but I also don't think he's the guy who had the 7 ERA last year. I think that he is a guy that can go out there and be between a 3 and a 4 ERA, be a serviceable pitcher, get you some innings, chew them up, and do the job. So to me, we know what Nola brings. We know what Wheeler brings. We know that Eflin is probably going to have a better year even this year than last year. To me, the key in the rotation is Matt Moore. And if Matt Moore can play well, you can get close to those 90 wins. You can get up to that point. All right? I think it's possible. I'm not betting on it. I'm not banking on it. But I think that you can get there. I think it's certainly possible because when I look at this Phillies team, I see guys you can hit. JT Realmuto, Didi Gregorius, Bryce Harper. They're all legit. They are guys who I personally think can be really good. I don't know what Rhys Hoskins is. Why I asked Tom Moore about him earlier. I'm not 100% sure what Andrew McCutchen is going to be for a full season. I mean, the center field situation is a dumpster fire right now. You know, if Hazley going down and now, Roman Quinn is presumptively is going to slide in there. We don't know how many days Hazley is going to miss yet. Remember, the Phillies don't even play today, so they don't have to give any specific announcements at this time. I'm very curious to see what they do, considering the fact that who is available, who is not. Now, the Phillies did give you a slight indication of what they are doing because they announced their player pool, which is going to be on the alternate site at Lehigh Valley. Remember, they're not starting spring AAA immediately. They are going to have the alternate site for a few weeks, and then the AAA season starts down the road. But if you think about they only have 4 outfielders down there. It's Odubel Herrera, Travis Janikowski, Mickey Moniak, and Matt Vierling. And that's why I mentioned I don't know exactly who they bring up because, as Tom Moore mentioned, Scott Kingery needs time to get things right. There is something wrong with his hitting approach, with his swing. There's something wrong there. So he needs time to figure it out. So you want to call him up. To get Odubel Herrera up here, you got to make a corresponding transaction with the roster in order to bring him up. So to me, I'm assuming that the guy would be Moniak. If Hazley's out for a week or two and you got to put him on the injured list, I'm assuming that Moniak's coming up. Because to me, that's the guy that makes the most sense at this point. Not saying that that's who they're going to do, but I'm making that assumption just based on the information that we have. But either way, it's going to be interesting because when you think about the Phillies, you know that this Phillies team, they have talent. Can they get the necessary wins to get up there? I don't know, but it's going to be a fun season to watch because if we get anything like what we saw last night, then guess what? This Phillies team can go out there and really give us something to watch this year. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget all your Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, and Eagles coverage over at 97.3 ESPN.com and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. And this week was the first week that you are now able to go on the app and customize your alerts. So if you only want Phillies and Sixers updates, you just go on the app, you change your alert settings, and you can get just Phillies and Sixers alerts, right? If you only want Eagles alerts, if you only wanted Flyers alerts, you want high school sports alerts, we got you covered with the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. If you haven't already, go and download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Sign up and get the alerts that you want so you never miss any news, any happenings, any insights and analysis about the Phillies, Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, or any of the teams or on high school sports here in South Jersey. It's free. The 97.3 ESPN mobile app, Apple Store, Google Play, thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. All right, before we get out of here, I do want to mention really quick before we bounce that interesting weekend here on 97.3 ESPN. Final Four is tomorrow. You've heard me saying throughout the day on the featured bet of the week, I am still hanging on to that Baylor versus Houston under 134. I'm sticking with it. It's just what I think. I just see two teams that have not allowed a lot of points. All right. I see two teams that have done very well. I think Gonzaga is going to win. I think Baylor is going to win. I think that's where we end up in the national championship. A lot of times chalk wins out at the end of the day in these events. So That's kind of where I'm leading. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the way it goes. Also, tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN, quick lineup rundown. Of course, the best of the sports batch with Mike Gill. Of course, his conversation with Jeff Nadeau, previewing the full slate of the action tomorrow. Locker Room with Billy Schweim. Special guest is Dick Stockton. That's right, the longtime broadcaster Dick Stockton is on the show tomorrow. And then I'll be on from 12 to noon, a full 2 hours of Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN, with special guest co-host Kevin McCormick. That's right, Sixers beat writer Kevin McCormick. Well, he follows all four Phillies sports teams very closely. So we'll get into some Phillies with him. We'll get into some Eagles with him as well tomorrow on the show. We got you covered all weekend long here on 97.3 ESPN. Also, Sixers basketball back in action. We got you covered. Sunday, of course, is the Sixers game as they take on Memphis. Thanks again to Tom Moore for joining us on the show today. Great stuff from him. Great insights on the Phillies and the Sixers. I am at Josh Hennig on Twitter, where you can follow me on social media. Have a great weekend, everybody. I will catch you tomorrow at 12.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio.
Way back and gone. Jose Abreu will touch them all.
The Chicago White Sox head to Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels.
When I'm locked in, I feel like I can hit any pitch at any time.
Gone. A line drive home run from Mike Trout.
The White Sox and Angels. This is the play-by-play home of Sunday Night Baseball, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM. Coverage begins after Sixers basketball.